The Watcher. The next morning Anna stood before the hallway mirror. She stared until her reflection's lips began to move on their own. The reflection whispered, "He isn't dead. He's waiting for you." From that moment, Anna no longer felt safe anywhere. Her own apartment had become a trap, the mirror's peepholes through which someone watched her. She tried avoiding her reflection, covering glass with cloth, leaving the bathroom light off so she wouldn't see her face. But the fear wasn't in the mirrors. It was inside her. She began staying longer at work. The crowded office felt like protection from the nightly calls and shadows. Yet even there, beneath the bright lights, she sensed eyes on her. A foreign gaze pressed against the back of her head, even when her co-workers sat quietly, lost in their texts. One evening she left the office later than usual. The city breathed cool night air. The streets were almost empty. She followed her usual route when the sensation struck, footsteps behind her. Even, deliberate. Anna quickened her pace. The steps matched her rhythm. She turned sharply down another street, catching a glimpse of a man in a dark coat, his face hidden in shadow. She ran. The steps grew louder. But when she glanced back, the street was empty. Only the flicker of cold lamplight. She reached her apartment breathless, locked the door with every bolt, and sat listening in the dark. Only the wind outside her window. But deep inside, she knew, it wasn't her imagination. The following days were torture. At the store, she noticed the man by the shelves. On the bus, his coat reflected in the glass. But each time she turned, he was gone. Madness or reality? Finally, she decided to test it. One night, she left home late on purpose, taking the long way. Within minutes, the familiar rhythm followed. She stopped, spun around. Across the street he stood. Tall, dark coat, motionless. The lamplight refused to touch his face, only his figure a shadow. "Who are you?" Anna shouted. He gave no answer, only tilted his head slightly, as if studying her. And in that instant, a sickening thought pierced her. He knows me better than I know myself. She bolted, not daring to look back. Only when she reached home did she realize her legs were shaking so badly they barely held her up. That night, she sat by the window for hours. And there he was again, under the street lamp, staring directly at her window. Still, unmoving. Only his shadow stretched thin across the night. Anna pulled back the curtain, forcing herself to look closer. Slowly, he raised his hand. A gesture. A greeting. One she remembered well. It was the circle's signal whenever someone arrived for a meeting. Her breath caught. This wasn't some stranger. This was someone she had left behind. The next morning she tried to rationalize it. Maybe the police? A private investigator? But no. His silence, his gestures were too personal. It was a message meant only for her. That evening, when the shadow appeared again, Anna stepped outside. Her heart pounded, but her stride was steady. She crossed the street toward him, but as she drew near, the shadow dissolved. Nothing. Only night. Only wind. She stood in the middle of the street, feeling the world laugh at her. But the laughter wasn't outside. It was in her head, and she understood. He was playing with her. He was always near. And watching. When she returned home, her door stood ajar. She was sure she had locked it. Inside, silence. Only a single sheet of paper lay on the table. On it, a few words. "I see you when you don't see me." Anna collapsed into a chair. A faint trail of cigarette smoke lingered in the air. He had been here. And he had left her a message. Now she knew for certain. She wasn't alone. And the one who watched her was drawing closer with every night. The forbidden name. Anna woke to the sound of her phone ringing again. She tried not to answer, She knew all she'd hear on the other end was either a whisper or silence, but the call kept repeating over and over until she gave in. "Hello." This time, there was no breath, no whisper. Just a single word, spoken slowly, deliberately, each letter striking straight into her heart. "Mark." Anna gasped and dropped the phone. The word lingered in the room like an echo you couldn't escape. Mark. The name she had erased from memory. The name that had been both sun and blade to her. She sat on the floor for a long time, hugging her knees. The past tore at her from the inside. She knew, if they had spoken his name, this was no longer a game. It was a sentence. Anna had met Mark when she was far too young to understand the cost of choices. He joined the circle later than the rest, but from the moment he arrived, he became her center. His dark eyes reflected something back at her. In them, she saw the version of herself she longed to be, strong, dangerous, free. He taught her more than anyone else. How to stay calm during an interrogation. How to lie so convincingly even her own body believed it. How to hold a knife so it felt like an extension of her hand. But above all, he gave her love. Or what she thought was love. It felt like the two of them were against the world. She trusted him more than she trusted herself. And that had been her greatest mistake. Because he was the one who betrayed her. She remembered that night. Their group gathered for the last time. Someone had snitched. They expected an ambush, but instead the police stormed in. Amid the chaos, she saw it. Mark was the first to flee. He didn't even look back. He left her among the wreckage, among the screams. She barely escaped. Changed her documents, her name, her life. And she swore to herself, never again would she speak that name. And now it echoed once more, in the darkness of her apartment. The next day she received another envelope. Inside was a photograph. From that night she and Mark were first alone together. Their smiles, a glass of wine, the warmth of closeness. On the back, a single line. "He has returned." Anna gripped the photo until her knuckles turned white. It was impossible. No one had heard from Mark since that night. To everyone, he was dead. But now, was this just another cruel game? Or was he truly alive? Her thoughts tangled. If it was him sending the messages, why? And if it wasn't, why use his name? That evening, she wandered the streets aimlessly. Shadows seemed to stalk her. Any passerby could have been the man in the coat. Then suddenly, a voice called from behind. "Anna!" She turned. A young man stood there, camera in hand. "Sorry," he said. "I'm a journalist. My name's Oleg. You once knew Mark Ravutsky, didn't you?" Anna froze. Inside, everything screamed. The name had been spoken aloud again, twice in one day, this time in the open street. "You're mistaken," she snapped, and walked away. But the journalist followed. "I'm investigating his case, his disappearance. There are many witnesses who say you were close to him. You could help." Anna spun around, her gaze sharp enough to cut, the same look that had once stopped even fearless men in their tracks. "Leave me, or you'll regret it." The journalist raised his hands as if surrendering, but curiosity burned in his eyes. He wasn't going to back off. When she returned home, another note was waiting on her table. Just 3 words. "He's waiting for you." Anna collapsed into the chair, burying her face in her hands. She no longer knew what was real and what was a game. But one thing was certain. The forbidden name had forced its way back into her life. And now it was pulling her toward the end. The trap. Anna woke to a sharp sound. Someone had thrown another envelope into her mailbox. She ran to the hall, but the stairwell was already empty. Only fading footsteps echoed below. Inside the envelope was a short note. "Tomorrow, midnight." The old station. Come alone. He's waiting. She held the page as though it were a piece of burning metal. Her heart pounded unevenly. She knew it was a trap. But not going meant endless waiting, living in constant dread. And what if Mark truly was there? The day dragged on endlessly. Anna couldn't work, couldn't speak to anyone. Two versions of Mark spun in her mind. The warm, smiling one she remembered, and the cold, distant stranger who had betrayed her. Which one would be waiting tomorrow? The old railway station had been abandoned for years. The tracks choked with weeds, the building a stone ghost of another era. The windows boarded up, yet through a narrow crack, light trembled. Anna moved quietly, her hand in her pocket where a folding knife lay hidden. She hadn't carried a weapon in years, but now her fingers remembered the weight, the cold of steel. Inside, the air reeked of dust and rust. The silence was so thick she could hear a chunk of plaster fall. Mark! Her voice betrayed her, breaking. No reply. Only a creak in the dark. She stepped further in. The light came from an old lamp hanging in the middle of the hall. Beneath it, another envelope. Anna bent down, picked it up. Inside was a photograph of her, taken just days ago, leaving the store. Beside her, a shadowy figure in a coat. The caption read, "Now you see me." Her heart clenched. She sensed movement behind her. She spun around. Only darkness. "Enough," she said firmly. "Come out." And then he stepped from the shadows, just as she remembered him, tall, broad-shouldered, in a long dark coat, his face hidden beneath a hood. He stayed silent. "It's you," she whispered. "Mark." He lifted his head. The lamplight caught his eyes. Familiar, and yet utterly foreign. "You left me." His voice was low, hollow. "You moved on. I stayed in the dark." Anna stepped back. "That's not true. You betrayed me first. You disappeared." He smiled, thin like a blade. "Or maybe you betrayed me. You always knew we were one. Without me, you are nothing." His words cut into her like a knife. Once he had said the same, but then it was love. Now it was a sentence. He stepped closer. She felt the walls closing in. It was a trap, and she had walked right into it. He leaned in, his face inches from hers. "Tomorrow, you'll come with me, or you'll die here, alone." She wanted to answer, but the words caught in her throat. She felt herself becoming that girl again, the one who had once believed him without question. Her hands trembled, but the knife stayed in her pocket. The man retreated back into the shadows. His voice still echoed as he disappeared. "Tomorrow, Anna. Our final choice." The lamp flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed the hall. Anna stood alone, clutching the photograph that burned her palm. She knew tomorrow would decide everything. The end, or a beginning from which there was no return. When she returned home, another envelope awaited her on the table. Inside, a single page. "You're already in the trap. There is no choice." Anna realized he was right. Tomorrow would decide it all. The last meeting. Night fell heavily over the city, like a black curtain. Anna walked the empty streets, each step echoing too loudly. In her pocket, her fingers brushed the cool metal of a knife. She was heading to the meeting, knowing she might not return. The place was set, an old warehouse on the outskirts. Its doors had long since rusted, but inside a faint light glowed. Anna pushed the door open and stepped in. Silence. The smell of dust and dampness. And him, standing in the center of the hall, his back to her. A dark silhouette, painfully familiar. "You came." His voice sounded as if the years between them had never existed. Anna froze. "You forced me." He turned. The yellow glow of the lamp lit his face. The same eyes, the same lips. But in his gaze, an abyss. I never forced you, Anna. You always chose to follow me. Her heart tightened. How many nights had she dreamed of seeing him again, and how many nights had she prayed it would never happen? Why now? Her voice shook. Why come back after everything? Mark stepped closer. Because you tried to live without me. You thought you could escape. But you know the truth. We're bound. We're one. Anna backed away. No, I've changed. I've learned to live without you. You're lying. His smile was cold. I've watched you all these years. Your loneliness. Your sleepless nights. You were always waiting for me. His words fell like stones, calm, steady, crushing. You betrayed me, she said at last. You left me that night. He lowered his head. I saved you. If I had stayed, we would both be dead. This way, you had a chance. You didn't even look back. Her voice broke into a cry. You shattered me. Mark came closer still, his face near hers, his breath scorching her cheek. And yet you're here. You came. Anna felt her hand move on its own toward the knife. But he laid his hand over hers and whispered, Do it. Kill me if you can. But if you can't, stay. Because you have no other way out. Her heart pounded wildly. The knife trembled in her grip. She saw before her the man she once loved, and the man who destroyed her life. Two truths, two halves of the same wound. Her fingers tightened on the handle. She raised her hand, but couldn't strike. Mark smiled, victorious. You've always belonged to me. Then he embraced her, firmly like before. But in that embrace there was no warmth. Only a trap. Anna froze. It felt as if the air in her lungs was running out, as if this was the end. His whisper brushed her ear. Tomorrow, we'll leave here together. Or no one will. Tears filled her eyes. She knew then, there really was no choice. The past had caught up with her. When she left the warehouse, the sky was already lightening. At dawn, the city looked like a stranger. Anna walked the empty street and knew tomorrow would be the final act. She pulled out her phone and dialed the journalist's number, the one who had asked about Mark. A sleepy voice answered. Hello. Tomorrow, she whispered. If I don't come back, remember his name. Mark Rivutsky. He's alive. And she hung up. She knew she had made her choice. Tomorrow, either she would end it all, or she would fall completely. The finale. Dawn spread its pale light across the city as Anna approached the warehouse. Her heart pounded, every step echoing in the silence of the empty street. She knew, today it would all end. The warehouse was shut. The metal doors groaned as she pushed the handle. Inside, the smell of dust and damp wrapped around her like heavy fog. A lamp flickered in the center, and there he was, Mark. The same, unchanged, as in her memory. His face cold, his eyes gleaming like shards of ice. You came. His voice was low, hollow. And now there's no turning back. Anna gripped the knife handle. She could attack, she could run, but she knew it was useless. He had always been one step ahead. Why? She whispered. Why return after all these years? Because we're one, he answered. You could never leave me, and I will never let you go. She took a step forward, and an invisible wall rose between them. Past and present colliding, shadows meeting reality. In Mark's eyes flickered the passion of the past, love and betrayal all at once. This is the end, Anna, he murmured. And you know it. Her body shook. She remembered the letters, the phone calls, the shadows in apartments, the words, We're still here. Now you see me. Everything converged in this single moment. Today, her past would claim her. She lunged at him, the knife flashing from her hand. But he moved aside easily, like a shadow. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her into the dark corner of the warehouse. I don't want this, she said, but her voice betrayed her fear. This isn't about want, he replied coldly. It's about us. In that instant, Anna saw the terrible truth. She had always been only a part of his world, never her own. Her freedom had been nothing but an illusion. Mark stepped back slightly, and she stopped, drained. He looked straight into her eyes. Her resistance, her fear, her fury, all of it meaningless now. Do you remember how you left me that night? His words struck like a sentence. Tonight, you return. This time, forever. Anna felt the ground vanish beneath her. Her heart thundered, pain crushing her chest. Breathing was agony. She knew. Her body was breaking under the weight of fear and the past that had finally overtaken her. She fell to her knees, the knife slipping from her fingers. Mark leaned down toward her. And then it happened, the inevitable. The light in her eyes froze, as she realized she would never rise again. He stood over her like the guardian of her forgotten world. The past swallowed everything, every choice, every step, every attempt to escape. And with it, the light began to fade. By dawn, the warehouse stood empty. Only the lamp trembled on the table, casting its glow across the cold floor. No trace of Anna. Just her photograph, her face turned toward the dark corner where once a man in a coat had stood. Mark stepped into the morning light. His face was stone, expressionless. He breathed deeply, and the air seemed lighter, cleansed of fear. The past had done its work. The city streets slowly filled with people. But for those who knew the story, the world would never be the same. Anna's tale remained in the shadows, a reminder that the past always catches up, and freedom is nothing more than an illusion. And even the mirrors that once reflected her fears now showed only emptiness.